Good evening, guys. Firstly, thank you so much for taking your time to join this webinar. Firstly, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Raman. I head international marketing at Exotel. In fact, I've been with Exotel for over 8+ years now. So I will be your host for the next 1 hour. 50 to 1 hour is the total duration of this webinar, right? So with that, we'll get started. I'm going to just give you a quick introduction about the webinar. Before that, in fact, I was going over a few stats. In fact, at Exotel itself, recently we ran a survey to specifically all the CX leaders and the marketing leaders from top companies, from top industries across Asia, actually. When we ran this survey, we actually came to realize a bunch of things. One, 74% of them actually mentioned that enhancing and optimizing CX is their #1 priority for 2023, right? And almost 63% of them are aiming to boost their product adoption or to sell new or looking to sell new products within their existing customers. So we can clearly see that retention is being prioritized over acquisition, right? And the other thing that we also came across was where the primary focus of most of these leaders was to establish a connected omni-channel experience, or rather having a enhanced customer engagement platform enabled for every business to talk to their customers. That is one of the key priorities that most CX leaders today are looking to adopt. So in today's webinar, we are going to be addressing exactly the facts that I just mentioned. So we're going to be going over how some of the top companies, what are the best practices adopted by these top companies to basically establish a connected CX or connected unbroken experience for the end customer, right? So that is what we're going to be talking about today. So let me just quickly take you through the agenda for the day. So in today's agenda, we're going to have primarily two things. One, we're going to have a quick keynote session where we're going to be specifically speaking about delivering connected customer experiences for your end customer to power smarter, faster, and secure interactions, right? So this is something we will start off with. And then post that, we will move to a panel discussion where we have some of the industry leaders and industry experts who are going to be talking about how they are looking at future-proofing their CX with enhanced customer engagement. So these are the two primary sessions that we have for today. So before we get started with the first session, there's also a quick poll that I would like for you guys to take part in. I'm just going to launch this poll. So this is a simple, there are just a couple of questions in this poll. We want to just understand from your point of view what you think about these two questions. I will just launch this poll and give you about 2 to 3 minutes of time, and then we'll get started with the first session. You guys should be able to see it on your screen. There'll be a couple of questions. The right answers are probably coming from people at Exotel who have joined. Nice. So 30 more seconds, guys, and then we'll get started. Ten more seconds, and then we'll get started. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, guys, for that. So with that, we'll get started with today's first session. For the first session, we have Varun Raj. He'll be taking through the keynote topic that I just mentioned. Varun has been working with Exotel for over 8+ years now. And in fact, he has over a decade of experience in working with some of the top enterprises in not just India, but all emerging markets across the globe. And he's worked these enterprises to basically help design their customer engagement journey for them, right? And he's going to be sharing his experiences today. He's going to be sharing some of the best practices that companies follow across the world. With that, I hand over the webinar to you, Varun. Please take over.
Thanks a lot, Raman. And I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Thanks a lot. Thank you everyone for having me here today. And I'm actually going to be talking about a topic that's very, very close to my heart. I'm also not going to kill a lot of your time, but I hope I can add value in the slides to come. So I'm probably going to rewind a little bit back in history, probably to the year 1930, 1910. And there was something that was very, maybe Raman, you want to go to the next slide. So back in 1913, there was something very interesting happening to the automobile industry. And it's a classic case study. It's a classic example of what you all must be aware of. Back in 1913, before Henry Ford decided to change the future forever, there was 720 minutes that was required to assemble one car. He thought about this quite a lot, and he did just one change to make 8 cars to be produced in the exact same time. The change that he brought about was, initially, the employees used to go to the cars to get it, all fixed, assembled and stuff, right? What Henry Ford came and said is, what if I bought the cars to the people? So he started creating an assembly line, put people for particular task, and started saying, let's get the car to the employees and let's reduce the time. The entire efficiency kicked off the roofs. What also happened was the entire cost of producing a car significantly came down. This one change actually revolutionized the automobile industry. Now, I'm going to probably draw parallels to that with one of the questions that you were asked a couple of minutes back. The number of SaaS apps that's actually been used by any average organization today is over 100. It's actually 110 is the number of SaaS applications that's used by any organization today globally. That's an astounding number. I don't know what the poll said. Raman, maybe you want to say what the poll was.
I think 54% of them told that it is 0 to 10.
Wow. Okay. So maybe it's a reality check. It's around 110 SaaS applications is the average number that's actually used by global organizations. But how does it really matter? What does it really say? Moving on to the next slide. If you look at the customers that you are catering to today, be it in Asia, in India, in emerging markets, we are dealing with one of the most diverse group of people ever. And with that, I kind of say this as the problem of many choices. With that, what you are dealing with is a bunch of customers. Some of them might love to talk on call. Some of them would love to chat. Some of them would not even like to chat or talk. Some of them would love to read emails. And some of them are absolutely good with notifications. That's really diverse. And you need to meet these expectations. On top of this, it's the era of customer over expectations. Multiple channels, multiple teams, and the customers over expecting probably overwhelms the businesses. But businesses are actually catching up. There's a theory that we have called the customer engagement flywheel. And that's where, in order to support this diverse group, what the businesses tend to do today is they go to multiple vendors, right? The support team has a particular vendor, the marketing team has a particular vendor, the sales team and the customer facing team has a particular vendor. And they all go to their most comfortable vendors. They integrate their internal systems and they start building this entire stack to engage with their customers for their own processes. What really is happening over here is that all these channels are siloed. Context largely goes out of the window. There are multiple agreements that get signed, and experimentation. Today, in the age where experimentation is key, experimentation becomes a lengthy process. But what are some of the winning organizations doing today? The winning organizations, when we started surveying this, started talking to multiple businesses. The winning organizations are going for a single vendor approach. Raman, if you go to the next slide. So what winning organizations are saying is, hey, you know what? Let me find a full stack single vendor who's going to now cater to majority of my needs. Let me now integrate my core systems with this particular vendor so that the context is easily translated from one function to the other so that there's a smooth handoff. And on top of that, the procurement team loves it because they have now the ability of bargaining with the single vendor, right? I'm sure everyone is aware of the power of bargaining that comes in when aggregation happens. But this allows businesses to quickly experiment, quickly scale up what's working, and quickly stop what's not working. And that experience leads to what we call connected journeys. Now, if an organization has connected journeys, we think that's not exactly enough. What we think is we need to build delightful customer experience. In order to build delightful customer experience, a bunch of us got together, we started interviewing people, and we realized it actually boils down to three things. First, it's absolutely important to win back your customers' trust. And why do I say win back? Well, with all the years that have been going by, customers have, customers are seeing a lot of noise in the market. In the entire communication channel, you open up LinkedIn, you open up your Instagram page, you open up your notifications, it's a lot of noise. You got to win back your customer trust. Second, you got to streamline our operations. I'll talk about these more in detail in the coming slides. And third, it's all about retention. It's about fixing the gaps through customer service. Let's look at it deeply. I'll give a very simple example. Today, all of you are engaging with multiple brands in multiple avenues. What does that really mean? Let's say, for example, you are interested in a particular property. You go and sign up on Instagram, and you get a call from the person. You have no idea who's calling, and they are using their personal mobile phone number to just give a call out, reach out to you. It can be the same case that's happening with your banking relationship manager. You have no idea that your relationship manager has changed. He's reaching out to you, or he is reaching out to you through WhatsApp or through a call. You have no trust. What businesses are doing today, Raman, moving on. What businesses are doing today is they're trying to get all customer engagements onto a business-owned channel, be it a chat, be it a voice call, be it any kind of notifications that has to happen from a business-owned channel. What if all of your organization, all of the touch points within your organization, be it your delivery executives, be it your relationship managers, be it your collection boys, what if all of them could now call to your customers with an easily identifiable business channel, either through WhatsApp, either through calls, either through the SMS that they're sending out? What if it could be easily identified? That's what businesses are trying to do today. Now, on top of this one-to-one engagement that we keep talking about is a powerhouse of information. What are the people actually on the ground talking about? Gives you great insights that can actually power the future of your company. I'm going to give you two examples. Something that started a long time ago. I'm sure most of you guys have booked a cab through Ola. And people in the Southeast, you would have booked a cab or a ride through Gojek. Both these companies take their customer privacy very seriously. But what's also happening is now customers of Ola, of Gojek, of Uber are very clear about who's calling them and why they're calling them. Because the calls come through a masked number, whether it's a delivery boy calling them or it's a support executive calling them. I'm going to give you a startlingly different example when it comes to the banking industry. This has been a problem that I've been observing a lot since actually 2018. And I found that ICICI Bank is a pioneer in this. They you know what they said? Hey, you know what? There's a lot of communication that's going on from my relationship managers to the customers. And my customers are probably not aware of who is this relationship manager. Why is he calling from the personal number? So what they decided is all the conversation that actually goes out from the bank to the customer, is going to go through a business phone number, a single number to power all these conversations. Now, this became extremely powerful because the customers started getting a lot of trust. They started understanding, okay, if I'm going to get a call from this number, that means it's actually ICICI Bank calling me. I don't care if it's my relationship manager 1 or it's my relationship manager 2, but it's ICICI Bank that's calling me. The same thing has been powered on WhatsApp as well. These are two examples of how companies have now started trying to build trust or win back the trust of customers. I would encourage all of you to actually look into your operations, your customer engagement, and see where you can bring these communications onto business-owned channels. The second one, let's say you have done all that. How do you now streamline operations? Now, as I mentioned, there's, a customer comes and there's infinitely possible customer journeys that can happen. The minute the customer touches one endpoint, how do you actually seamlessly hand off from one process to the other process? And in the process, give the context to the next person. That's where we say it's absolutely important to build streamlined operations and connected journeys. And I've given a very simple example over here. If you actually look at the screen, this is an e-commerce shopping example where a customer visits the webpage, starts talking to a bot. He realizes that, okay, I've got the order. I've got my order confirmed. Immediately a authentication call is placed because it's a COD verification, COD order that's being placed. The system authenticates that the user has actually purchased the order. The delivery boy goes out to deliver the package. He actually calls through a masked number, which is business owned, or he starts chatting to the customer on WhatsApp for the location, which is again through an official channel. And then once the delivery is successfully done, a delivery notification comes or a delivery call comes saying that your order has been successfully left at your doorstep. And if there are any issues, then you contact the contact center. Let's say, for example, the delivery did not happen and you get a failed message, you actually call the contact center and he has a complete context of when did the delivery boy try to call you, from which number, what happened to your phone at that particular point of time. All this information is already available with the contact center, reducing the turnaround time for handling any issues. This is a perfect example of how a connected journey would look like. Seamless handoffs, seamless context switching. The third one is you've got back your customers' trust. You have figured out how to engage with the customers in a more streamlined fashion, make it more connected. But again, at the end of the day, it's all about retention. And since 2021, a lot of enterprises have been investing in retaining customers more than acquiring customers. We realize that support is actually at the crux of it. And in order to do that, you have to now provide support through multiple channels. Here you have given an example of how you can now start chatting from WhatsApp. When you're tired of talking to the bot, your queries are not answered, seamlessly start talking to the support agent without any hurdles, without any IVR. Start talking to the support agent. The support agent realizes what is the conversation that you had with the bot and why is it that you're actually reaching out to the customer support agent. What we have seen is enterprises who actually implement this kind of a flow has saved millions of hours in terms of human resources and also increased the productivity. Raman, moving on. So here I've also actually tried to give a totally different example. Sometimes people think customer support is only about external teams, but it's also about supporting internal teams. Imagine you have a large fleet of salespeople or support folks or collection boys on the field. When they have queries, how do you actually get support? We encourage two types of ways. One, you have a knowledge bot that's actually sitting in their application or their mobile app. Second, they're able to actually start calling into a number and a knowledgeable bot starts talking to them with context, start addressing some of their problems, and then if absolutely required, connect them to or escalate it to the product experts. This is another example where you can actually start enabling and empowering your internal teams. We have actually seen a lot of adoption in especially the BFSI space for this particular implementation. Now, I've been speaking a lot about what are the 3 or 4 different ways in which you can win back your customer trust and build an amazing customer experience. But at the end of the day, what you really need is the single stack that's going to make these experimentations really, really easy for you. You might want to experiment a journey with WhatsApp and voice, or one journey with WhatsApp and your chatbot and your SMS. You need a vendor, or you need a partner rather, who can actually enable most of these conversations, channels, experimentations easily. And that's where Exotel comes in. We are the most advanced full stack customer engagement platform in the region. And today, with ULBNO, we are also the only true cloud provider present in over 62 countries, and we have over 7,000 customers. The platform is highly scalable, with handling actually currently over 70 to 72 million conversations every single day. That's a brief about Exotel. To answer back to the question that Raman was asking, what all channels do we support? We actually support all the 4 channels that was asked over there. We have communication APIs for voice, SMS, WhatsApp, rich media. We have our own bots for automation. We have our contact center application. In fact, yesterday we just launched India's first true cloud contact center application where the telephony is also on the cloud with Ameo Extreme. And these are being actually used by organizations across industries: financial services, fintech, banking, e-commerce, name it, we are there. If you have a use case, do reach out to your CSMs or account managers. We'd be happy to help out. But with that, I probably hand over to Raman back.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Varun. I think that was well put across on how to retain your customers by specifically focusing on these 3 things. One is to basically winning the customer's trust back, and 2 is to make sure that you're streamlining your operations, and 3 is to bridging gaps in your entire customer service. And thank you so much for putting out so many examples at each of these stages. I hope the audience here were able to take back some of them and relate with their own organizations. So next up, before we go to the panel discussion, if you have any questions, you can actually post in the chat window. We would love to answer them before going to the panel discussion. I'll just give a quick 1 minute here, so that if you have any questions, you can put it across in the chat window. Okay, I have one question. I think the question is around how can WhatsApp be used specifically in an e-commerce journey? What are some interesting use cases that you have seen in WhatsApp? I think they're talking about notification, etc. That is very common. So, Varun, is there something interesting that you've seen in the e-commerce journey?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we have in the e-commerce journey, I'd actually like to give examples of e-commerce and from banking. In the e-commerce journey, we have actually enabled complete commerce journey on WhatsApp, where you can actually now start shopping on WhatsApp, make the payment on WhatsApp, get the notification. So the entire cycle can actually be on WhatsApp today. That's one. The second is, I'm not sure if you have tried to apply for a loan in HDFC Bank. Their entire journey of applying for a loan is now reduced to 2 minutes through our WhatsApp journey that's powered through us. I think probably those are 2 examples that comes on top of my mind.
Okay, super. I think if there are any other questions, we'll talk about them towards the end of the webinar. So next up, we have the panel discussion. Again, in the panel discussion, we're going to be talking about how can you as an organization can future-proof your entire customer engagement process today, right? For this, we have a couple of esteemed panelists. So these are industry speakers and also are our Exotel customers for a long time now. First up, we have Mr. Faizan, who is one of the senior product members from Move and Sync. So in fact, we've been working with Move and Sync for a very, very long time. I still remember the first time I spoke to Move and Sync good few years back. And next up, we have Mr. Anshuman, who's heading engineering at Gojek. He's taken his time to be here and share his experiences on what is his observation in the market when it comes to customer engagement. And we have Sachit, who is handling GTM strategies at Exotel. And again, he has experience of working with some of the top organizations in designing their entire customer engagement journey. So Sachit will be the moderator. Over to you, Sachit.
Hey, thanks, Raman. Raman, I think if we can stop sharing the screen and maybe put on the videos, that'd be great.
Videos?
In the sense, if we can have Faizan, Anshuman, and myself on video. Or do you want this banner to stay?
Okay, we can actually do that, sure. Yeah, you can go on now.
Cool, awesome. Thanks, Raman. And thanks, Varun. I think that was a super context that you said. Very interesting stuff. Even I myself was not aware that organizations do use 110 SaaS apps at a given point of time. That was news for me also. And hey, welcome, Anshuman, and thanks, Faizan, and welcome to you also to the webinar and to the panel discussion, right? So just to give a brief context to all the audience, if you are not aware, so Move and Sync is one of the largest corporate fleet management solutions which is there in India currently. Okay, and Gojek is that in on-demand platforms, a super app for Southeast Asia, powering almost entire Southeast Asia with their hyperlocal as well as logistic super app capabilities, right? So both are in the space of logistics and fleet management, but in their own different ways. Because Move and Sync, I understand, is more into the corporate fleet management space, while Gojek is more a B2C kind of a management or a C2C kind of a management where the end customers are directly getting interacted, right? So the journeys will be different, and we look forward to understand more from both of you guys, Anshuman and Faizan, right? So to start off and leaving off from where Varun had actually stopped. Okay, so one common thing which always has baffled me is that, see, just coming back to the point of 110 SaaS apps, right? So communication or customer engagement is a space which is far faster evolving than any other technology which is there out there in the market, right? Even smartphones have stopped evolving in the last few years. All the designs are the same. But if you look at the communication or customer engagement platforms, every single day it's evolving. In fact, when I joined Exotel 6 years back, there was just 2 products, voice and SMS. Today, I think our SKU line is like over the roof, like more than 10 plus SKUs with a lot of other products coming in, and that's in the previous 6 years. So I wanted to understand from you guys, your business in particular, how does your business adapt to the changes of this ever evolving and demanding customer engagement space? So is there any particular methods that you follow on with how to decide on the customer engagement as and when it comes? So we'll start with Anshuman. Anshuman, from Gojek side, how have you fixed it?
Hey, first of all, thanks for having me here, Sachin. So yeah, I think I agree. It's a very, very quickly evolving space. I remember the time when emails were the go-to ways of, reaching out to customers, which obviously is almost all dead right now. Then came these waves of push notifications and SMSs and other ways, right? But it has definitely evolved significantly. What I think is happening right now, and what we have done at Gojek as well, is built a lot of personalization on top of while we are reaching out to customers, because any kind of generic campaigns where you target mass or millions of customers, it doesn't work anymore. So I think we were actually using third-party solutions to reach out to customers on different various channels, right? But we have, as our needs were evolving, we actually built our own in-house capabilities to have support more and more use cases that businesses were needing on Gojek side. So apart from traditional ones like emails, push, chat, WhatsApp, SMS, right? I think what we are doing and focusing a lot on these days is personalized in-app communication and point of sale campaigns, right? So as traditional businesses have been doing, putting chocolates near the checkout counters for just that last mile sell, right? So I think we have been doing a lot identifying the customer intent, what the customer wants to achieve. So one interesting use case I can share is like we had so obviously any e-commerce or ride hailing and any product where you have a price estimate or a cart screen, right, where obviously you see most drop-offs in any of the user experiences journeys, right? So I think we have built a lot of ways to get user back from that screen, right? For example, one simple experiment we did was ask user to, whenever there is a high surge in a ride-hailing product, we ask user to sign up for alerts when the surge reduced, right? And we saw a heavy number of users sign up for those. And when we actually delivered those notifications, that the surge is lower, the intent and conversions really jumped through the roof. So we have seen really good performance of these kind of campaigns where it's very, very targeted, super personalized, and letting users continue the journey that they were already on. Another use case that we have enabled for Gojek might be one of the few companies who can enable this. But for example, if you book a ride to a mall, and as soon as you drop off, you get campaigns depending on promos running in the mall, or maybe a food pickup order that you can do there, right? Or payment cashback coupon that is available in that mall, and it's all generally financed by the companies, right, which the stores itself. So it's a low burn, high return for the customer, and very, very targeted point of sale, giving that chocolate on the last transaction point. So I think this is the future, being very, very precise and concise about what you communicate and how you communicate. So I think we have been investing very, very heavily to get better in this space.
Understood. So what I take away from that is personalization is key. And most importantly, when it comes to personalizations, definitely push notifications and those kind of avenues where your users are more commonly available. And even like you said, say coupons and things which is to the point relevant. That's something that you are promoting for all your customer journeys and touch points.
Yeah, it's not just in-app. So there is a lot of in-app touch points as well, right? When you are in the ride, for example, right? If you are scrolling through the app, you see a lot of targeted available options that you can cross-sell depending on where you're going, very location-based, context-based, your intent, identifying the intent of the user and getting it right. It's not easy to do, but I think that's where the best conversions do happen, though.
Understood. Okay. Got it. And how about in Move and Sync, Faizan? So in the Move and Sync also, I understand the touch points might be slightly different from, say, the likes of a Gojek. But how is Move and Sync, adapting to these customer engagement demands? And also, how many channels would you typically use, say, in a company like Move and Sync?
Sure. Thank you, Sachit, for giving the opportunity. So I just want to build on what Anshuman and you have been talking about, right? And it is absolutely correct that personalization, right? It is the mantra. So typically at Move and Sync, both the channel level personalization and both the content level personalization is something what we follow. Say for our use cases, we have since it's more of a B2B2C use case, we have varied types of user personas out there. Right. For example, we have a millennial employee who wants to come to an office, and a transport manager who is probably in his 40s. Right. So the way I would want to interact with a transport manager versus a millennial employee who is brought by his cab, and the channels I would use for them, right, is probably quite different. Also, typically since this being a corporate commute platform, what happens is that parameters like reliability also take precedence over some other of these factors, right? So especially say when you are a woman employee and you're being dropped off at a late evening hours, so we want the communication channel to be much more reliable over say other parameters, like it should be more jazzy, right? So so things like this also become more important in use cases like this. uh, so basis all this, we choose both the relevant channel of communication and the content of communication as well, right? Both channel and content, both personalization from various factors it bumps in.
Understood. Okay, cool. So Faizan, on that note, since you brought up, say, especially in your space, since there is, say, privacy and reliability becomes a very major issue. Okay, just wanted to touch base on that point, since we are speaking about it. So in today's world, if you look at it, say, every company is gongo about, say, data security, right? Every company is kind of making a point to the public that, hey, your data is safe with us. Okay. But what we have seen is that the data or the safety that they're referring to is mostly the security of the data, or how they have saved data, the format of encryption and things like that. But do you think that, especially say in your space and even for other spaces also, say the phone number of a person, which is their closest identification, okay, is something which is the most important part, especially in today's world where it is filled with scams, spams, and whatever. So, how do you believe that, say, protection of phone number is important, and what are the measures that Mohan Singh is taking for that right now?
No, absolutely, Sachit. I will kind of agree to this, right? And I want to re-emphasize this point again. See, the reason is because the service here is provided with the corporate, right? So, as an employee of, say, a large corporate banking client, right? If I'm an employee of that, and it becomes, since the service is provided by the my employer, it is basically the onus is on the employer, right? So that's why the standards of security in terms of number masking or a click to call feature which we use, right, with Exotel, right? These things become very paramount, because it cannot be just left like to a B2C use case, right? Because the onus comes back to the employer, and there could be legal repercussions, or there could be safety repercussions back, especially in case of women employee security, right? So we take a lot of measures. One is like a phone number masking is the basic one, but apart from that also, we block the access to even call, right? Even call when certain security features or security parameters are not met. And then we use all this callings via Exotel as well, right? Which provide the safe unmasked calling, right? So yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so same thing, Anshuman. So at your side, say if you look at, say, Southeast Asia as a market, while in India, number masking or number privacy was something adopted by many of at least the e-commerce companies to start with, and then the others to follow, even the hyperlocals. That started way back. But if you look at, say, Southeast Asia, where majorly Gojek operates, number masking as a functionality or as a concept towards protection of phone numbers was something which is adopted a little bit more late. Maybe that adoption started only in the last 3 or 4 years, right? So, and what I understand is Gojek is one of the first companies who adopted that, in Indonesia to start with, and then to the other markets. So, wanted to understand your view also on, especially in a B2C scenario, how it is different, why number masking or protection of a phone number is so important, in your kind of an industry.
Yeah, I think to answer the first part, right? I agree that Southeast Asia has been a bit late to adoption of number masking in particular. It's been, I mean, I've been in Gojek for almost 7 years, and since the day I joined, pretty much I've been hearing about frauds and data leaks and phone number leaks and security hacks happening on social engineering hacks and everything happening on phone numbers, and mostly because some of our driver partners were selling the numbers, for example, right, in the open market. So so we have tried to bring it earlier as a company, but we could never find a really cost efficient and reliable partner to deliver this phone masking as a platform in Southeast Asia. In fact, we actually launched this in Singapore just a couple of years earlier before Indonesia. But when it came down to Indonesia, Singapore still had reliable partners and other platforms other companies who were doing this. Indonesia was lagging a bit behind in the infrastructure capabilities. So I think that's around the time when I started talking to Varun back in the day, right? We have been discussing about solving. So Exotel particularly had actually solved us SMS OTP problems, very, very cost effectively for us. So we reached out to Varun, talked to him, and he actually went ahead and built the whole infrastructure to support Gojek in Indonesia. He used to go to Indonesia and lay down the physical lines to actually enable the phone masking capabilities for us at this high scale, right? So yeah, I think back around in 2018-19 is when we started phone masking in Indonesia, and the response has been very, very receptive. It's sort of has become industry norm in Indonesia as well, which in India it became a bit earlier, but now it's industry norm in Indonesia. Common expectations has already been set up with the customers that your number has to be masked. So like all our key indicators on fraud risk reduced significantly. Social engineering frauds reduced way significantly after we launched this feature. So it's been a great help. Good opportunity to thank Exotel, a great partnering with you guys on solving this problem for Indonesia.
Thanks a lot, Anshuman. Thanks, Faizan, also. I mean, we are pioneers in that, but then we are also looking at how we can expand the scope of things, not just on number masking, but also on the entire security aspect and the reliability authentication aspect of calls and SMSs and other mediums. Speaking about which, I just wanted to understand, see, whenever you are adopting, say, something like even number masking or even WhatsApp or even say Truecaller in India, or even say any other form of customer experience enhancement tools, right? There will be a customer journey, just like how Varun was presenting in his slideshow. So there will be a customer journey which you will be, at least you have first-hand knowledge of from how your customers are, from the moment they get onboarded on the app until say they execute a order, or even in the case of Move and Sync also, from the moment a corporate is onboarded and then you start the operations of the fleet. So how do you exactly go about, say, identifying this journey? And second thing is, how do you understand that, hey, these are the exact communication channels which I should be implementing at this particular touch point? I'm very curious, how do companies actually identify that and then understand that, hey, these are the touch points which exactly should be here? So how do you actually brainstorm and bring that out?
Yeah, I think I'll go at this. Yeah. Okay. So it's an interesting question talking about customer journeys. This is actually something that I'm actively working on right now as one of the projects in my team. As I was saying, right, we are replacing a third-party vendor to, understand. So this is what we feel is the next generation of customer engagement, understanding their journey, understanding their intent, what they want to do, why they did not do what they wanted to do, right, and make them get back to the journey that leads to a transaction essentially, right? So I think I agree that this is the next generation of customer engagement, and building on to what Varun also earlier said, right? That there's a lack of trust with the customers on the channels, right? So the funny story is that when we actually launched Exotel integration for phone masking in Indonesia, right? So the numbers, obviously, phone mask numbers look a bit weird sometimes, right? And they're like continuous stream of numbers and a bit different than what normal numbers are sometimes, right? So, by default, people started feeling that these are spam calls and did not attend to calls. This was one of the earlier challenges when we did phone masking integration, right? So we identified this, right? We realized we did a lot of analysis on, what's broken, why people are not accepting the calls, why are connection rate so low, and then we realized that people are actually considering these as scams. So we identified the problems. We actually started asking permission to users to enable Gojek to save the mask numbers automatically into their contact list, right? So that then they get call from Gojek numbers, the drivers, it will show up as Gojek driver on their phone. So this is a very, very important point I wanted to emphasize that Varun already mentioned, right? The lack of trust is extremely high right now. Building these small touch points. I mean, just saving these contacts automatically just solve the problem for us in one go. Very small solution, but very key thing to achieve a successful phone masking for us as well. So I think just one of the examples. But apart from that, what we also do is so for example, Gojek also has chat, with drivers, with different other customers, right? So we use chat significantly. We tried different ways in which we can also use chat as an official form of communication with the customers, right? And we realized that fraudster were trying to, also use this channel to, social engineer frauds. So we sort of started building experiences around how do we make sure that these, customers can identify what are official channels. The messages would look different than, normal messages, right? Even between driver customer conversations. We try to identify intent, try to see if somebody is trying to do a fraud with other, right? Or somebody is requiring help. So guiding the customers in their journeys, through automation, through identifying, what the challenges are, building that trust, that's how we have been playing on these things. Yeah.
Okay, great, Anshuman. Thanks for that. Faizan, so in your case, I understand, as you said, it's a B2B2C. So how is it different? I can imagine there could be multiple touch points over there where there are too many stakeholders coming in. So how do you guys take it forward?
You are absolutely correct, Sachin. So there, as I said, right, there are a lot of power user concept in B2B, right? So what happens is, I would say, primary we are driven by either the sponsors, right, of the program, who are the B2B stakeholders, and then of course B2C stakeholders are also there. But from a B2B side, the drive or the objective comes is that everything needs to be audited, right? As I said, reliability is more important over other parameters. So say, let's just map a example, right? User journey. For example, a driver reaches the office, right? And then when does the driver reach office, right? The corporate wants to record it. Was it at the right time, with the right window or not? So that's the touch point which we kind of enable to record. Then the employee has boards the cab. When did the employee board the cab? Has he boarded or not boarded, right? So all those records are maintained. Then the employee gets down from the cab. Has he got down from the cab or not? Or for example, if in case of women employee, additional marshal security guard is also required, right? So was the guard present or not, right? So all these records have to be kind of captured and they're done, and all this has to happen digitally. So that is where we bring in multiple touch points, and that's how we identify that what all we need to bring in, and then we bring the right channels to record these inputs, and we record and get that, right? So that's one way we do that. The other way is from a B2C experience standpoint. We think of our user and see what all the user actually needs, at what all touch points a user would need from a right user experience standpoint. So that also empowers us to think, okay, what are the touch points we should build from a user perspective as well, the B2C user perspective as well, right? So primarily we go about two ways. One is from a B2B user persona, what they need, and then from a B2C, right? But obviously we kind of prioritize more of B2B personas because of a reliability business which we are in, right? Because of that.
Understood. Got it. Okay. So in these touch points also, just continuing it from there. So in this touch points also, see, as we understand, so there can be multiple channels, like say there can be calls, there can be SMS, WhatsApp, emails, reportings for your B2B. So there can be a lot of touch points, even contact centers. If there is an emergency, then call into a contact center to see and things like that. So currently, if you ask me, there are like umpteen number of CCaaS as well as CPaaS players in Indian market and even globally also. Okay, so is there an issue that you are facing where, say, you're taking WhatsApp from one vendor, say calls from somebody like Exotel, SMS from say some other vendor, and then ultimately it is coming to say a CRM or a contact center where the person who is attending the call needs context about what all things transpired before the call comes in. So how does these channels kind of talk to each other? That is one. Second, do you think that having a full stack communication offering from say one single vendor, that is say all these offerings are coming from say one single platform, will that be beneficial? Is it something that will be need of your requirement for a company like yours?
Sure. So let me delve with an example again. So let's take a use case where an employee is sitting on a cab, he reaches his onboarding point and he goes back to his home, right? He's dropped off. The employee is dropped off from the cab. Now, whether the employee is dropped off or not, we need a confirmation of that, right? That needs to be recorded somewhere, right? So that's the use case we are working with, right? So what happens? We trigger IVR calls, and we trigger IVR calls, and if the employee is kind of reached, he can give his input that I reached safely, right? So a lot of times what happens is the employee doesn't pick the call. So we kind of build business rules on top of that. Okay, an employee doesn't pick, then call after n number of minutes, and if it doesn't pick, call after x number of minutes. Right? But what really happens is that where a single having a single ecosystem will help is, since see, not as I was saying, the employees are from various 20 age group to a 40 age group, right? So and each person has their own preferences, behaviors, right? So not everyone wants to kind of give that confirmation over a call. People who are comfortable giving that confirmation over WhatsApp also, right? Just I just want to these millennials of today just want to give nudges over app itself, right? So what happens is, if having separate providers, no, help us makes the system much more less contextual, much more less intelligent, I would say. If there was a single provider, it can take everything and judge, okay, if IVR has not gone, let me maybe try another channel for this. Or Faizan or Sachit loves WhatsApp confirmation more over IVR, so let me first attempt WhatsApp confirmation more, and then only in case of P0 situations I will try to call Sachit more, right? So these personalizations can happen only when you have a single intelligent source, right? So that context is missing. And one more point as a challenge I want to highlight here, right, is especially in case of the blue collar segment, the manufacturing segment which we work with. See, those user personas are very a little tricky to work with, because they don't have smartphones. They're working with they're working with the regular feature phones, and a lot of times, even if they have smartphones, they're in the manufacturing industries, typically they're not allowed to take smartphones. So they're taking these confirmations, doing all this customer journey, right? The scope suddenly becomes limited. So there is something we are also looking for a solution, and we are still exploring on how to kind of solve that piece. But while challenges are there, we are doing our best in that.
I understood. Okay. Thanks, Faizan. So, Anshuman, how about, say, for something like Gojek? Because I can imagine that whenever, say, a delivery goes wrong, say, on the ground, or maybe a pickup or a drop was not satisfactory, there'll be a lot of cries from the ground, which is coming from customers, and then you might be checking with your partners, and then they will be telling that, hey, this happened, that happened. So obviously there'll be multiple touch points at that level also. So just like how Faizan was mentioning, right? Multiple touch points for various stakeholders. So in your case also, how do you think having a one single common solution provider, having this full stack offering of, say, WhatsApp and your in-app notifications, say SMS, emails, calls, etc., vis-a-vis, say, somebody you're taking different offerings from different services. So having a full stack, how will that help?
Yeah, I think Faizan very well articulated the advantages of having just one provider, right? So I'll rather present a different point of view as well, right? So given Gojek, for example, or any other large scale companies like Flipkart, right? They cannot, rely on one vendor to also, build their whole business continuity around, right? So it's also important that, so obviously Gojek also started having one vendor for solving one kind of problems. But slowly what we have also done is made sure we have multiple integrations with different vendors so that we have fallbacks and alternates available in case of performance degradation or, a cost not working out well, right? Even things can vary from one geography to another. Sometimes a vendor that does great in Singapore might not do so well in Indonesia or other way around, right? So how we have built our systems is this intelligence of falling back, choosing the correct medium for communication, and these business decisions are currently being mostly made at our systems, and we use the system providers or these communication providers as a dumb channel to pass on the information is essentially. So we have, as our systems have matured, we have slowly started moving in this direction, but if you're a small company, I think it's definitely smart to start with one vendor, use as much you can with one company, so that you don't have a lot of integration points, and also vendors, and they come with their own challenges of contract negotiations, and in API integrations and SDK integrations and all that, right? So I think it will depend a lot on the stage of the company, and it's a good idea probably to start with an integrated solution, but then eventually have 2 or 3 companies which provide hopefully integrated solutions, and have multiple touch points, and keep the decision on your end, so that if Exotel call fails, you have another vendor who you can try connecting through.
Fair enough. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Anshuman. So I think from a panelist question perspective, I think that's all that we have for the day. I think we covered quite a few aspects in terms of how communication is evolving, and what are the various methods using which companies are today adopting this fast evolving communication trends, so that they can cater to the demands of the consumer. So personalization is key. That's a feedback which came from both our panelists, that personalizing things as per the customer's requirement, and each customer's requirement, if that's possible, is something which will help in not just business and growth, but also in retention, which is also very key. And also, given the nature of businesses, it is also very important to understand the customer journeys, and also map these customer journeys with the preferred communication channels of the customers, because that is what eventually helps in stickiness, and also help the platforms also to improve within itself. We also discussed about, say, some aspects of especially data security, and how number masking is key, especially in emerging markets like India and Southeast Asia, and how that can prevent a lot of spams, scams, and also how authentication of these numbers, can help in improving pickup rates, and also having genuine conversations between the two parties, which is also a healthy thing to do between a company and its users. Similarly, we also discussed about how a full stack offering from, say, one single company can be beneficial in multiple ways, say the data points talking to each other, but at the same time, we also discussed how, depending on the size of the company, it might be important to have maybe fallbacks and backups, and also depending on how, certain regions, some companies might operate well, in certain regions, some might not. So it's also important to choose the vendors appropriately who will be fit for your market of operations. So summarizing, what we discussed, I think these are majorly the things that we have discussed. I think it was a great discussion, a lot of insights which came from, say, a giant in Southeast Asia, and also one of the largest corporate fleet management companies in India right now. 2 different perspectives in terms of, say, B2B2C and B2C, but definitely we can see a lot of synergies, and also on the thought process of how the engineering and as well as the product teams of companies are thinking into this direction, right? So yeah, thanks a lot, Anshuman. Thanks a lot, Faizan. I think that it is just really lovely to have you and to hear from you. I think everybody who is there on the webinar has benefited, because there's a lot of insights that we're taking home here from this panel session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hazan. Good being here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Sajid. Thank you, Faizan. Thank you, Anshuman. Definitely, that was a very insightful conversation for all of us, and for me as well. Personalization, securing customers' phone numbers, and having one vendor, one primary vendor, and maybe secondary and tertiary vendor for your full stack channels. I think those are the 3 key points that I took away. So I hope our attendees also had a lot to take away from this session. So we'll just have another minute for questions. So we had one more question during the course of the webinar, which was, what if IVR blast done to, it was by Mr. Manoj. What if IVR blast done to customer is not answered by the end customer? How can we educate customer on the incoming call is from a specific brand, so that they attend when we make the next attempt? So I think this is more from, Varun, I think you can go ahead.
I will probably take that up, Manoj. So very, very interesting question. In fact, I think you can solve the problem in 2 ways. One, it depends on the geography you're operating, but if identification apps like Truecaller is available, you can definitely whitelist your number with Truecaller, And we are partners. We have partnership with Truecaller. We'll help you whitelist the numbers with Truecaller. And during that whitelisting, while your brand name comes up, you'll also be able to give the context of the call so people know why this particular call is being made. That's one. But I'd also like to share one more point with you. You can actually start getting those calls. When people see a missed call, the general tendency is they try to call back to that number. And if you select a vendor where that is supported, that'll be fantastic. For example, in Exotel, when you do a IVR blast, you can actually get all the people who are calling back into that number to listen to the specific message that was played out to them, right? So that's also possible. It depends on the platform that you're using.
Thank you so much, Varun. I think Anshuman also covered this in one of the panel questions, if I'm not wrong, how Gojek tried addressing this problem of number being marked as spam. So yeah, I think that answers the question. I hope so, Manoj. I think that's about it from the questions point of view. All right, guys, with that, we'll wrap up the webinar. Thank you so much once again for all the panelists and all the attendees who were part of this webinar today. And thank you, Sachit. Thank you, Varun. Thank you so much for all of you for taking your time. So with that, we come to the end of the webinar. There'll be a quick survey that will be flashing on your screen post the webinar, post you close the window. It's just 3 questions. We just want to feedback on how we can improve our content next time around we conduct this webinar. It'll be great if we can get your feedback on the same. And you might get the feedback form or through an email as well. So thank you so much, guys. See you next time.